Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound Browns 3D, brought to you on the OBR by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. Appreciate the good folks over there for their sponsorship of Browns 3D here, of course, brought to you exclusively on the OBR. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate everybody, certainly for their support here as we're putting out this nightly content lineup, along with all the fantastic written work that's coming at you. Our guys were all in, certainly mode as far as Senior Bowl and the draft and that type of stuff. Then we certainly got the bombshell dropped yesterday from Myles Garrett and, his request to be traded away from the Cleveland Browns. It's still, for you of age people, still kind of feels like, when you went out, had a good time with your friends, maybe had a couple too many, it still feels like you're in that haze, that fog from the night before. And here we are now, almost 36 hours later after the news of this. I got to tell you, some of the actual possibilities as far as what people are trying to put out there, as trying to, snipe Myles Garrett away from the Cleveland Browns. And look, all of this is under the premise of if the Browns trade Myles, because the financial ramifications, like I talked about yesterday, are absolutely damning. Browns have to eat all of that money that is, there as far as written in the contract, as far as dead cap, and it would just absolutely eviscerate the Browns having any opportunity to, operate through free agency, let alone having to release several players, just have enough money to sign their 2025 NFL draft class, which they currently have 12 selections in. So, all of that is, there's a lot of red tape certainly to go through. And, I highly recommend checking out our own Jack Duffin's work here at the OBR. This is something that, not everybody has a passion to cover and to get like really deep into like the knowledge and the understanding and the written verbiage of contracts and how they equate to, math, money, numbers, and economics. Jack has really, really gotten really good with this. And, if you want to know more, you want to learn more, you want to understand how it all works, I highly suggest you check out Jack Duffin's work here on the OBR. Jack is great with that. And he'll even dumb it down a little bit so morons like me can kind of understand it a little bit, because I have been getting some questions about that. So, I can speak on it and give you answers on it, but if you want verbiage and, something that's going to stand up in court as basically a written word, I think Jack Duffin's the guy you're kind of looking for that. I've seen so many, proposals, and actually, let's just get this one out of the way. The who says no trade tweets are the stupidest thing on X right now. And there are a lot of stupid things on X, but those things are just beyond stupid. The aggregators just drive me absolutely BS crazy. If you're going to go to the lengths, for God's sakes, at least put something together that could even make feasible stuff. This is stuff that would get rejected at Madden, for God's sakes. Now, and of course, this is if the Browns were to move Myles Garrett, what could they conceivably get? Now, you look, obviously, for Myles, what Myles Garrett is looking for is certainly not a team in the top 10. You say you want to go compete for a Super Bowl, which makes this even murkier, because now all of a sudden, how many teams do you consider? Does that mean I only want to play for the Kansas City Chiefs so I go to the AFC? Because they've been, how many Super Bowls now? How many the last, 5-6 years? They're about maybe going to win their third in a row. So does that mean you want to go to the Kansas City Chiefs? The NFC, does that mean you want to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions, the Washington Commanders? Is that it? Is that your list, those 4 teams? I don't know. But now, if you're a team, again, say Buffalo, say Washington, it's 2 first-round picks. Before we go any further, it's 2 first-round picks, because your first-round picks are not high enough. That's the problem. So, when I see, the Bills, maybe a 1 this year. Oh, the Bills could give them a 2 next year and a 6. Get out of here. Just go away. Not even close. If you are a playoff team and you were looking at Cleveland with your eyes on Myles Garrett, knowing he is your final piece of the puzzle to get you to hoisting a Lombardi, you're paying, and you're paying handsomely. And it starts at 2 first-round picks. Starts. It'd be nice if you had 2 and 25, but as we said numerous times, there is no team that holds 2 first-round picks in the 2025 NFL draft. Perhaps the Cleveland Browns will. Any potential trade from an upper echelon team, and this is going to go for lower echelon teams as well, I am absolutely laser eyeing through your quarterback room. I don't care how many quarterbacks the Browns bring in this offseason. I don't care if it's 7. I don't care if it's 8. Because with the lack of a quarterback market, I want as many as possible. As many as possible. I'll dwindle them down or release you as I need. But I need as many quarterbacks as possible. Because if I have little to no faith in many of them, I want many of them here. I want to go through all of them. I want to date every one of them before I girlfriend them up. That's the way I feel about where the Browns quarterback situation is. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the Browns quarterback situation as we go on. So that's it. If you're a Buffalo, you're a Washington, you're a Detroit, you're a Philadelphia, I want 2 first-round picks. I am looking at your quarterback room. And if I don't find anything in your quarterback room, I might even be asking you for a starting caliber player. Whether that starting caliber player is a wide receiver, a young tight end, perhaps a safety. I'm certainly looking at your defensive end room. And we'll get to more, what you do if you do lose Myles. Because most likely it's not one guy, it's 2 minimum that you're hoping can even be a close complement or equal complement of what you're losing in number 95. To what we know of this point, nothing has changed as far as the stance in the building in Berea. I don't think they have any intention of trading him. Whether that's factual, not sure. But according to our own Jack Duffin, the first key date in anything related to Myles Garrett is March 15th. At that point, Myles Garrett is due about $5 million as we start going through his money for the 2025 season. So there's your first key date, which obviously gives us about 5 weeks from now. You think, if this were going to happen, this is going to be a huge thing that's probably talked about. A lot of business, a lot of NFL business goes on in the NFL Combine. It is not just the players working out. It is, the illegal tampering before the legal tampering of free agency goes on in Indianapolis at the Combine. Also, this would be where legwork, groundwork, and maybe even getting close to starting to get legit offers for the Browns for Myles Garrett would be. The Browns most likely are going to have to, would have to find a way to extend him. And, hopefully that alleviates some of the dead cap issues. Maybe it doesn't. And look, if I'm to the point where I have no money and I've got to cut players just so I can sign my draft choices, I'm not trading Myles Garrett. I just won't. Sign a contract. Now, I know he's got Clutch Sports Agency in his ears, probably telling him his marketability is suffering in Cleveland. He's losing a lot of money off the field by being with the Cleveland Browns. I don't care. You're the agency. You find him more money. You find him advertisements. That's not the Browns' concern. Brown's concern was that we paid him a good amount of money and he performed. All parties have done their part there. Browns are more than willing to hand him a contract that makes him the highest paid defensive player in the NFL at 29 years old. Reigning defensive player of the year, could be two-time reigning defensive player of the year come Thursday. And how awkward will that be if he does get named defensive player of the year on Thursday? Pretty, even more awkward. But if it comes to the point where the Browns have to do a full rebuild to move on from Myles Garrett, I don't know if I'm trading him. I got a business to run just like anybody else. It's just the way it goes. Love the guy. Think he's been an outstanding performer here. I wish him all the success he can possibly ever have. But why does the Browns franchise have to get nuked because Myles Garrett wants to go play in a Super Bowl? Sorry. That's just the way I feel. We're going to continue on here. Your latest Browns 3D. We appreciate everybody, of course, for being along here for the ride with us. We're going to talk a little bit about Browns quarterback position here going on. Thank everybody for sticking around. I am excited to introduce everyone to State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights. If you are local to the Cleveland area, they're your one-stop shop for all things lawn equipment. Listen, you want to spend your Sundays watching the Cleveland Browns, whether it's good or it's bad, and not cutting your grass. Let the guys at State help you get your weekend back. They specialize in both residential and commercial equipment for Toro, the brand professionals have counted on for more than 100 years. Whether you are looking for a new dependable time cutter, zero-turn, genuine Toro replacement parts, or expert service from our experienced technicians who keep your mower in peak condition, State has got your back. Veteran-owned, the Kane family are lifelong Clevelanders, lifetime Browns fans, and they are proud supporters of us here at the OBR. Again, if you're local to Cleveland, State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights is your hometown team for all your lawn equipment needs. All their info is at statesharp.com. That is STATESHARP.com. Again, appreciate you all for joining us here. Browns 3D, now exclusively here on the OBR. And we appreciate everybody for all your support. You will have the react after this, Pete and Brad. And no, Pete Smith is fired up. So he and Brad are certainly going to break down everything for you, certainly on the Myles Garrett situation and all your latest Browns news. So make sure you subscribe here on YouTube to the OBR and, of course, Twitch. And, of course, get on over to the OBR247sports.com. Get all your Browns written content. Sign up for that insider package and follow along with all of the rumblings and ramblings of what could be going on in potential trade of Myles Garrett. We talk a lot. And actually had a nice long conversation. I guess it was Sunday. Good buddy of mine who also does a lot of Browns coverage. We talked a lot about the Browns quarterback situation, and he actually was down at the Shrine Bowl. And the thing about the Shrine Bowl as opposed to the Senior Bowl is the Shrine Bowl, right now it's just not as heavily populated as the Senior Bowl. So you go to the Shrine Bowl, you actually get an opportunity to get more in-depth conversations than maybe necessarily you do at the Senior Bowl. And this is one of the things we were talking about. And, we were certainly talking, obviously, about the Browns quarterback position. And this is before all the Myles news drops, of course. And there seemed to be a shift with what the Browns' belief was for a quarterback. And it started probably with the acquisition of Deshaun Watson. But it seemed like the Browns were really trying to find guys that they felt brought good mobility to the position. And, was this something that Kevin Stefanski, basically had in his offense, but never really got the opportunity to use? Or was this something they were looking to use to put into their offense? I'm saying those wide zone runs are beautiful. And you see it a lot with, some of the more athletic and running quarterbacks in the NFL, where basically you run wide zone, but your quarterback doesn't hand it off. And then basically as everybody's chasing the play to the right or to the left, you have your quarterback running out to the opposite side. So it was Deshaun, certainly. Josh Dobbs in DTR. PJ Walker's got decent mobility. So when we start talking and bringing up these mobile quarterbacks, there's a reason, guys. There's a reason a lot of us feel Daniel Jones and the Browns could be a match. Again, these names are not going to satisfy your hunger for the quarterback position. I get it. But we still got to talk about it. And we still got to try to assemble what we think is going to be a Browns quarterback room here for 2025. I also think it's maybe one of the reasons, along with Tommy Rees, of course, why there is a lot of, trying to pair Jalen Milroe and the Browns. And look, Senior Bowl week didn't go very well. I'm not going to, fake it, force it. It just didn't go very well for Jalen Milroe. He really, hopefully for himself, he was looking to, show much better down in Mobile. Unfortunately, that was not the case for Jalen Milroe down in Mobile. But you look and, there are still folks that think there is a lot of talent within Jalen Milroe's body. They also feel that Jalen Milroe needs a lot of work. And when you try to put that on somebody, the question is, do you believe that they are the guy that would put in the work? Putting it in or not putting it in doesn't guarantee that they're going to reach the levels that you think they can reach. But do you think the guy is going to at least put in the effort to try to help improve, get his game where it needs to be, reach levels in his play and be diverse and learn new things like arm angles and patience and proper throwing mechanics and torque, all of these types of things? He has natural arm talent. He does. His hand size, it's not good, not necessarily good for certainly playing in the AFC North or playing in Northeast Ohio. But you look and the mobility is there. And it appears the Browns, since, the move for Deshaun, it's kind of something they're looking at. Jameis Winston was brought in to just be a true backup quarterback last year. Obviously ended up playing a lot more than any of us thought he was going to play. Then they did go to DTR. And one of the things we even heard before DTR got the starting job was, the Browns think they have a couple of plays in, they can go to with DTR, a couple of packages. Obviously, those were, on the premise of, his running ability. None of it worked, obviously. Certainly. Cam Ward, he can leave the pocket and pick you up a couple of yards. He is not going to be considered a running quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, you guys have heard me at length to this point. I have a lot of concerns, about what Shedeur Sanders can bring you from that standpoint. And for me, it's probably the biggest knock. Do I think he can stay in the pocket, throw the ball all day long? I think the pressure he had and was, under in Colorado was terrible. I agree, but, you don't have to take 20-yard sacks on 3rd and 7 and now all of a sudden make it 4th and 27. Get rid of the ball. Do the rest of your team a favor. Do your punter a favor. Do your defense a favor. Do your punter a favor, et cetera, et cetera. Do your defense a favor, et cetera, et cetera. Now, of course, the speak, and this was one of the things that came from the conversation I had over the weekend, was actually really positive about Shedeur Sanders and, certainly applied to Travis Hunter as well. I think Deion Sanders gets a lot of flack that he probably, just because I think Deion's just always been this lightning rod. And I think you truly are. You're either a Deion Sanders guy or you're not. I've always been a Deion Sanders guy. I was a Florida State guy. Deion Sanders was one of the reasons that drew me to being a Florida State fan. Just the flamboyance, the exuberance, the grace, the way he played. It was something I couldn't take my eyes off of. I think a lot of people think, and I think this is, Deion won't let them go there, this, that, or the other thing. And look, we still don't know anything about that now. But I think people have this belief that Deion was was easy on these guys, which couldn't be further from the truth. Like the stuff you saw, like, I don't want to see you walking around campus with a tank top on. I don't want to see you walking around campus with a pair of slides on. That was not lip service. You dressed like a man, dressed like a gentleman. It was all stuff. He was real about that. The fact that the entire football team combined had a 3.4 GPA. That's hella impressive. It really is. Because you always get a couple of knuckleheads who just, don't do anything. Or they won't crack a book or, try to pass a test until their eligibility is in question. And Shedeur and Hunter got no free passes. Deion was just as hard on them as he was anybody else on the team, which has led to both men being grounded, very grounded. Heads can be really, really big if you're a Travis Hunter. Shedeur Sanders, certainly, being the father of Deion Sanders. They're not wired that way. They love ball. They're passionate about it. They put in the work. And this was one of the big reviews in the conversation I had about what went on, some things you saw during the Shrine Bowl practices that, Shedeur Sanders ain't no, basically coddled guy who's riding the name of his, last name of his father. It's just not happening. He's dedicated. He's motivated. He wants to be great. Hunter as well. Great friends. Also, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward are extremely tight, which is going to be really interesting as this process goes on because these guys have been tight for a couple of years now. Good friends. Competing to be the top quarterback drafted in the 2025 NFL draft. It's kind of different. It's not usually the way, agencies would want it, this, that, or the other thing. These boys are kind of beaten to their own path with that respect. And, hey, if you trust each other, who else would you, rather, trust than, good friends who trust each other, even though they're in this difficult situation where it's going to be one or the other who's going to be the top quarterback off the board. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the one goes to the best position for the other or vice versa. But, in a difficult time like this, maybe it's a good thing for both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders that they have this friendship with each other of going through this difficult process. But when we bring up mobile quarterbacks in regards to the Cleveland Browns, there's a reason for this, guys. It's kind of what we've been told by some of the moves the Cleveland Browns have been making at the quarterback position over the last few years. Now, again, if the Cleveland Browns are to move Myles Garrett, and look, I told you, hurdles, huge financial hurdles for this to even happen. And look, I don't know how it happens. I just don't. And look, I'll be honest with you. Unless there's a way where you show me significant financial relief, I'm not doing it. It means I can't be a player in free agency. It means I got to lose some of the guys I want to keep here. And it means I got to struggle to find cap space to sign my rookie class, of which now, if I move on from my star player, I desperately need probably all 12 of those picks. You're going to need 2 defensive ends right off the bat. We all talked about this fantastic scenario of drafting Abdul Carter high at 2, maybe trading down to 3 with the New York Giants. Now, as much as I love Abdul Carter, if Myles Garrett is not here, I don't necessarily love the situation that much because I'm putting an awful lot of pressure on Abdul Carter. Undue pressure. That probably isn't exactly fair for a guy that I'm drafting 2 overall. And you Browns fans don't act like you'd be so easy with it. You know darn well the comparisons would be there from day one. Or what you were expecting from him would be there right out of the get-go. So that's difficult. But the thing is you're still going to need some sort of significant player afterwards. Now, in the scenario that I was talking about, you're going to recoup most likely another first-round pick if you do move on from Myles. So, what else is there after Abdul Carter? I'm not saying you're going to use the first-round pick on another edge, but you get into that range late in round 1 where you're talking about Mike Green from Marshall, probably going to go higher. James Pierce from Tennessee, Shamar Stewart. Would you double up? Would you double up on edges? And here would be maybe my thought process is you're doubling up and hedging your bet that one of them becomes a dude. Long-term guy. A guy that's going to get that second contract, hopefully stay here 8 years, longer, yada, yada, yada. That type of thing. Certainly an interesting premise because this is a pretty decent edge class. And it might not have to be with that first round pick you acquired in a possible Myles trade. It may not have to be at pick 33. These are just some names I'm mentioning here. And, for now, you kind of try to look at what's available in this free agent class. For me, one of the first names that kind of sticks out is Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat, about to play in the Super Bowl here with the Eagles, will be 28 years old in free agency. Certainly, with Andrew Berry, there's a little bit of a Philadelphia Eagle attachment. Money is going to get, I'm not going to say gone, but it's going to dry up pretty quick for the Eagles. You have Nolan Smith, first rounder and first round pick. You have Jalen Carter. You have Jordan Davis. Those boys are going to get paid and paid handsomely. There's only going to be X amount of dollars that the Philadelphia Eagles can put into the defensive line. So they're not going to be able to retain everybody. So it certainly thinks that a guy like Josh Sweat is probably a guy that's a pretty good bet to hit the market. Once a 5-star recruit, one of the most athletic freak specimens that ever existed, serious injury, he's done an amazing job to get himself back to the level he is. Still probably falling short of what the overall expectation was going to be when he was 17, 18 years old. But credit to him for, sticking to it like he did. Chase Young will be, next season 26 years old. Again, another guy that's, went through hell and back injury-wise. But, if you could get a Carter and a Chase Young, and you understand maybe with a Chase Young, you're getting maybe a 60% player, maybe a 70% player. And I mean snap count. Not a guy you want to put out there and expect to, take full starter reps. You still certainly have McGuire. You still certainly hopefully have Alex Wright. Other certainly names to look at. Charles Omenihu, who will be, you would sign him for his 28, it would be age 28 season in 2025, about to go to another Super Bowl. Charles Omenihu. The class, it's not really very deep kind of after that as far as what this class brings. Peyton Turner has kind of been a flame out with the New Orleans Saints, but he was a guy we really liked, about 4 years ago coming out. He's right around that, I believe, the age of 26 years old. Solomon Thomas is going to be 30, but he's more of a slender interior, type of pass rusher. So this class is not loaded in free agency. It looks like a draft class that brings you more, and there's a lot of excitement, certainly with the edge group for this year's draft class. And, we've all talked that we thought the Cleveland Browns were going to be heavy players in the edge market as far as the draft. It does not look like that's going to change. It only looks like the talk of that is going to pick up even more. Again, this is all contingent on what is eventually going to happen with number 95. It is a real difficult scenario to play out. It truly is. And again, until I hear how it can work, that it is basically not going to take the Browns, who have always been a team that basically, just, bled, just basically, just had money to burn every year, the way they were able to turn it over. But if it's going to take it to the point where, the Browns are all of a sudden, on food stamps financially, I'm not doing it. And I don't care. Because now the other 52 become the ones that are most greatly affected. And you can't have a 1/52 scenario. You can't. I understand. And I get his wishes. I truly do. But he and his agency, they know that contract. They know the Browns' finances. If it's common knowledge that any of us can Google, Clutch Sports Entertainment can certainly fire it up as well. And understand that trading Myles Garrett is just not a financial possibility. It's not financially feasible for the Cleveland Browns organization. So don't do it. You want to sit out, sit out. You got a contract. But I am not nuking my roster my team in 2025 because you maybe want to play in a Super Bowl. Every other guy on the Browns roster wants to play in a Super Bowl. Every other guy on every other 31 NFL rosters wants to play in a Super Bowl. That contract you signed does not guarantee you a Super Bowl. However, it does guarantee you are going to get that money that is guaranteed on that contract. So for Myles, and I'm not saying kiss and make up. Maybe it's more like you move back in the house but still sleep on the couch and make up. But his best path financially is to stay with the Cleveland Browns and work out a contract extension. And maybe this can be revisited in a year. But until then, the Browns should not basically have to implode because Myles Garrett wants to play in a Super Bowl. Maybe I'm saying this because I just want Myles here. And I maybe hopefully want to believe that all of this is similar to what Lamar Jackson went through last year. And then obviously went on to a phenomenal season. May have won MVP again. Maybe that's what I want to believe. Am I blind? Am I naive? I could be. But there is no way, shape, or form the Cleveland Browns are a better team in a couple of ways by moving on from Myles Garrett. Financially, they're flat, broken, busted. As a team on the field in the locker room, they're losing their leader. They're losing their best player. They are losing basically the number one guy that fans come to see. And again, just can't do it. Will not do it. I am Jeff Lloyd, your host here. Browns 3D on the OBR, of course, brought to you. State Sharpening, Mower Sales and Service. Appreciate the sponsorship from them. Make sure you subscribe to the OBR on YouTube and, of course, Twitch. Make sure you're checking out the site, reading all the fantastic content. Our guys had a lineup of mock drafts, Senior Bowl write-ups, this, that, and the other thing. And this is the way this type of business works. You go with what's important and you go with, what is the breaking. And right now, it is Myles Garrett. We're still going to cover everything else for you guys. You know that. But right now, this is not, we have a Super Bowl this week. And crazy enough, the Cleveland Browns and Myles Garrett are probably the biggest story currently in the NFL. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.